Anthony, thank you. CAL FIRE tells us lightning started at least 5 small spot fires in San Diego County this afternoon. All of them were small, were quickly put out. Our meteorologist Angelica Campos has been tracking all of this from the Pinpoint Weather Center. So how do things look now?
Well, looking better. And I went live on Facebook earlier today. Some of our viewers telling me that even at the Barona Indian Reservation, they lost power at the casino because of the thunderstorms passing by. We saw Cassie and Pine Valley, the wind report there 57 miles per hour, typically 45 and above. That's when the winds are capable of bringing down trees and power lines, and we clearly had that today. Most of the thunderstorms moved very quickly, averaging 30 miles per hour, moving northwest. And while there's still a few light showers near Encinitas, not where our reporters are, it is starting to get active again south of the border. We'll be tracking those thunderstorms as they do get closer to the county. Also, a heat advisory will continue through tomorrow. We'll talk more about that coming up.
All right, thanks, Angelica. While all that was going on, the ocean temperature hit record highs. And of course, that brought big crowds to the beach. 10 News reporter Rena Nakano is live at La Jolla Shores, where the Labor Day crowds seem to have stayed. Rena.
Yeah, Lindsay, there were a lot of people here, not so much now, but that was until about 3:30 when that flash rainstorm rolled by until about 4:30. Luckily, we did not see any thunder or lightning like the other two reporters did. However, right now it's just back to sticky and muggy. The beach is supposed to be an escape from the blistering hot heat, not so much on Wednesday.
For most of the summer, we were hovering around the 74 to 76 range, so yeah, this is significantly warmer than it has been for the last few months.
Tuesday, the buoy at Scripps Pier in La Jolla hit 77.5 degrees, the highest recorded water temperature in the month of September since 1916.
I think everyone I talk to is complaining about the heat right now.
Everyone except this guy.
I hear you guys complaining about the humidity, but this is paradise.
Tony Bogatich has spent every summer in La Jolla since 1978. This is his getaway from the intense Texas humidity and heat. But lately, he says he's felt a change.
It's not like the Gulf of Mexico down in Texas, but it's getting there. That's a little too warm, actually, I think, for California. We need to cool it down a little bit.
Scientists say if the ocean water gets too warm, it can be harmful to our health.
But it's getting more humid, and the heat waves are becoming more accentuated during the night because the humidity prevents the surface from cooling by radiating heat out to space.
Bogatich knows firsthand, so to help him sleep, he caved in. He just installed an AC unit in his summer condo.
We just put it in. We just put it in this summer, absolutely, because of climate change.
And the heat advisory will stay into effect until 8 p.m. tomorrow. Reporting live in La Jolla, I'm Rena Nakano, 10 News. Back to you.
Thank you, Rena. You can stay on top of the heat anywhere you go by downloading the 10 News app. A free version is available in the App Store.
All right, turning now to the nation's big weather story, a live look at the radar as Hurricane Dorian heads towards South Carolina. The Category 2 hurricane is still gaining strength and is now blamed for at least 20 deaths in the Bahamas. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Hur.
From Georgia to the Carolinas and Virginia, the race is on to stay ahead of the storm, with authorities warning the time to evacuate is now.
Don't try to ride it out. It's not worth putting your life at risk or endangering first responders who might have to save you.
The big concern, areas prone to flooding could be fighting several feet of storm surge.
And as we saw a week ago, an 8.5 foot tide in Charleston means streets start getting flooded.
Dorian's rough surf already eroding the beach in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and the storm's surge carving feet out of the dunes. The heavy wind and rain toppling trees and power lines, knocking out power to more than 11,000 customers, but most now back online. President Trump receiving another briefing on Dorian today.
We got lucky in Florida, very, very lucky indeed. Hopefully we're going to be lucky. It depends on what happens with South Carolina and North Carolina.
This as the U.S. continues its relief efforts in the Bahamas, where Dorian left behind so much destruction. The Coast Guard rescuing dozens on the ground, while back in Florida, volunteers are doing what they can to help.
These people in the Bahamas have lost everything.
And that's why I'm here to give up. This is the least I can do.
And it's not just in Florida. Help for the Bahamas is being mobilized all across the country. In fact, today the Charleston mayor said that his office has been flooded with calls from people wanting to help. So once the storm passes through their area, they too will be on board. Elizabeth Hur, ABC News, New Smyrna Beach, Florida.
A big shakeup in San Diego politics. Congresswoman Susan Davis announced today she won't run for re-election. In an email to her constituents, Davis says she struggled to make the decision to retire. The 75-year-old has been representing San Diego in Congress since 2001. While her district is reliably Democratic, her departure means a wide-open race. Small business owner Juan Cabrillo and community advocate Joaquin Vasquez are already running for the seat.
A trial began today for the father accused of starting a fire that killed his 2 children. Prosecutors say that he was drunk and smoking cigarettes when the home went up in flames. Our 10 News reporter Jen Dela Cruz was inside that courtroom where the images were hard to look at. Jen.
Evidence today showed bunk beds turned to rubble, and that's where prosecutors say that 7- and 10-year-old were sleeping when that fire broke out in flames. They say that father also tried to escape, even breaking a window, leaving those 2 kids inside that home. In the aftermath of destruction, flames leaving a child's bedroom burnt and covered in ashes. The bedroom where 7-year-old Isabella and 10-year-old Christos would succumb to flames. Prosecutors say their father, Henry Lopez, left them to die.
A parent has a duty to care for their children, to protect their children, to sacrifice themselves when their children are in harm's way. And the defendant, Henry Lopez, failed his children on every account.
The DA says Lopez was smoking cigarettes when he passed out drunk, starting the fire at their Rancho Bernardo home in 2017. His ex-wife and the children's mother, Nakia, says his drinking problems go back several years, even filing a restraining order against him.
He threatened to kill me. At night, he would just drink and drink and drink and drink. I did anything I could to just keep that image of him being the perfect father to Isabella and Christos.
Nakia struggled to hold back tears when asked to identify her children's bedrooms.
Yes.
Sitting across the room from the man she says is responsible for their death. The defense claims there was only circumstantial evidence that the fire started from a cigarette. They believe it was Lopez's cell phone that was plugged in underneath his pillow. Lopez faces 5 felony counts, including child endangerment and manslaughter. If convicted, Lopez faces up to 14 years in prison. Reporting live from downtown, Jennifer Dela Cruz, 10 News.
Thank you, Jennifer. A San Diego-based CAL FIRE crew was injured after the engine they were in flipped over on a rural road in Central California. 3 of the 4 firefighters in that engine were hurt, but only 1 remains in the hospital tonight. According to the CHP, the driver lost control of the engine around 8:30 this morning, causing it to flip multiple times. The San Diego crew of 4 were heading home after covering for Tulare County Fire Station. New information also on a deadly crash in Escondido on Labor Day. We now know the name of the 2 people killed in that accident. Lauro Ordonez sped through the 15 South off-ramp on Del Lago Boulevard and plowed into the back of a Jaguar into a Toyota Avalon. Ordonez was taken to the hospital where he died this morning. Rita Quintero, who was the passenger in the Toyota Avalon, died at the scene. 2 other people were involved in that crash and were also hurt.
Chaos tonight in Britain. Opposition parties have rejected Prime Minister Boris Johnson's call for an October 15th election. That election requires a 2/3 vote in the House of Commons, but today only 298 of 650 lawmakers voted in favor of it. Most of the opposition says they won't vote for an election until a bill preventing a no-deal Brexit passes. Johnson hopes a new election will give him a majority in Parliament, which will sign off on leaving the EU October 31st. Another Democratic presidential candidate could soon be dropping out. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says that he will likely end his campaign if he does not qualify for the October debates. De Blasio made the cut for the first 2 debates, but he didn't qualify for the one that's coming up next Thursday in Houston. Candidates need $130,000 campaign dollars and at least 2% support in 4 polls to make those debates. You can see next Thursday's debate right here on ABC 10. It will run from 5 to 8, followed by a special edition of 10 News.
A horrible discovery for local drivers. Acid poured all over cars in National City. Why the best hope for identifying the culprit failed. Plus,
a renewed push to cancel Drag Queen Story Hour scheduled for the Chula Vista Library. What happened today after tempers flared at a similar event last week.
And Disneyland is being sued for millions for an accident on Space Mountain.
In a heat advisory, I'll pinpoint how hot it's going to feel from the coast all the way into the foothills. We're back in 90 seconds.
A nightmare for drivers in National City. Take a look at this. Someone poured some type of acid-like substance all over their cars, badly damaging the paint. Our 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala has the search for the person responsible.
And you can see just how bad this damage from the acid is on this car and several others down the street here. Anyone would be angry waking up to this and knowing the person who did it is still out there, especially because this isn't the first time some of these cars were ruined on this street.
My neighbors told me that my car was vandalized, and I went out and looked at it, and I noticed that was 2 of their cars and another car, and actually mine. So it was 4 cars total.
This woman asked us not to show her face or use her name, but says she saw the paint crumbling off her family's SUV and 3 other vehicles parked on East Division Street.
The roof, everything, the front, the side.
And was instantly concerned that they were possibly targeted.
Well, there was somebody that hit my car back in June. It was a drunk driver, and it hit my car and it bounced back and it hit my neighbor's car.
She says her neighbor was able to track down that driver, leading police to an arrest. National City Police tell me they haven't identified a suspect or any link between the 2 cases, and they say they haven't seen any recent trends. Unfortunately, a surveillance camera in the area wasn't working at the time the vandal made their move.
The claim is already there. I don't want to touch the side of the car, so I'm not going to drive it. I mean, it's so frustrating. I mean, I'm taking time out of my job right now, and I have to be at work.
Now these families have to deal with the inconvenience and costly damage this has caused, but leave one message for the person or people responsible.
Find yourself a hobby.
Now, if you have helpful information or similar damage, you are asked to contact National City Police Department. Reporting in National City, Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
A man has been arrested for selling fentanyl-laced drugs to rapper Mac Miller before he died of an overdose last year. The DEA says 23-year-old Cameron Pettit from LA sold Miller oxycodone pills as well as cocaine and Xanax. The oxycodone was counterfeit and laced with the deadly fentanyl. A medical examiner later listed Miller's cause of death as mixed drugs toxicity. Pettit has been charged with distribution of a controlled substance.
A woman is suing Disneyland for $3 million over a concussion she says she suffered on Space Mountain. The Alaska woman says that she hit her head against a low concrete ceiling after the ride malfunctioned in 2017. Sarah Andrews says that the ride was diverted into a dimly lit maintenance tunnel. As she was exiting at the time, she claims that no one warned her about the low ceiling and she smacked right into it. He says the injury caused permanent impairment. There is no comment from Disney.
A former Charger is on the mend after getting a heart valve replacement in a new and improved way. Former Charger lineman Ed White had that procedure done just yesterday. Chief of Cardiology at Scripps Memorial La Jolla, Dr. Paul Tierstein explains why it's so much less invasive.
We can now do an aortic valve replacement in a very minimally invasive way through a small needle stick in the artery in the leg, and then bring the valve up, the new valve up to replace the old valve without having to open the chest.
Tierstein says there is almost no recovery time after the surgery.
Now, 10 News Pinpoint Weather, sponsored by Mozzie Heating, Air and Solar, voted best heating and air company 2 years in a row.
All right, no matter where you were in the county, you probably saw those ominous clouds out there today. Probably saw some rain too.
Yeah, they moved so fast. They were in one side of the county, and about an hour later, they were out of the county. So very quick moving. 80 degrees right now in downtown San Diego. It is hot. It is humid for some of you. Way too hot. I know. I've heard from many of you. At 7:10, that's when sunset will happen. But even then, temperatures will be pretty warm. We picked up over an inch of rain in Pine Valley today with those thunderstorms. I've been looking at some of the totals, and pretty impressive. 89 degrees right now in Escondido. 80s closer to Kearney Mesa, 84 in Carlsbad, and 81 in Imperial Beach. The heat will continue and the humidity also playing a factor here. That's why we have a heat advisory in effect until 8 o'clock tomorrow. This includes coastal areas and also our inland communities. I believe it's one of the first times this summer season that we've had the coastal areas included in the heat advisory. So I feel like it's going to be closer to 92 to 100 in our inland communities, but close to the coast also it's going to feel like you're in the 90s, 89 to 8 to 96 degrees. It's going to be an uncomfortable day tomorrow. The water temperature averaging 76 degrees in the North County, 74 closer to Encinitas, and 74 in downtown San Diego. La Jolla Scripps reporting 77.5 yesterday. We're going to have another round of thunderstorms tomorrow, slightly drier air on Friday, and then much better in time for the weekend. Looking at the satellite and radar, we do have one little cluster of thunderstorms that's developing just to the south. You can see it right there where you see the icon for ABC, and it's going to be moving northwest. Overnight into tomorrow, it'll stay mild with temperatures averaging around 81 degrees at midnight in Escondido. So it's going to be hot out there. The outlook for the next 7 days, temperatures right around 84 degrees on Thursday along the coast. Remember, you're under a heat advisory and it'll feel like you're in the 90s. So beware of all the activities and everything you have planned for the day tomorrow. Friday, 91 degrees in our inland communities and back down to 84 on Sunday. It will feel much better next week. It'll start to dry out. It'll be cooler. And even the mountains are going to be in the 70s by Sunday. But for tomorrow, another active day on tap with possible thunderstorms. We're going to be tracking those thunderstorms just to the south to see where they're headed. Most likely, Ocotillo Wells could see some of it.
Could be another wild day.
All right.
Thank you.
It is time to get a check of traffic with Officer Tommy Strickland. How's it looking out there, Tommy?
Hey, Lindsay. Well, we had a lot of crashes out there during the rain today. I counted about 13, so that's slowed traffic down. Let's take a live look. If you're traveling on that northbound 15, it's going to start slowing right at north of the 52. We also have a 3-car crash that's on the center divide. There it's going to be northbound 15 at the 56, and that's going to be slow for you all the way up to Escondido. That southbound side on the 15 starts to slow at Mira Mesa, and that's going to be heavy for you all the way down to National City. And then if you're traveling on that southbound 163, we have a 2-car crash that's on the transition to the southbound 805 transition, and those vehicles are on the transition on the right shoulder. I'm Officer Tommy Strickland with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
All right, Tommy, thank you. A violent encounter caught on camera at a local college.